Economaki, my dad, had a tough childhood. He pulled himself up by his bootstraps. He couldn't go to college because he couldn't afford it. He made his own way in the world. He's very resilient and very driven. From a young age, he started going to Paterson, New Jersey, to a place called Gasoline Alley East, where the drivers from the East Coast garaged their cars. So he would take the trolley down and go hang out with these fellas, and that's where he got one of his first jobs, which was stooging for Dwayne Carter. And he did that for a couple of years. He actually sold National Speed Sport News. He was 13 years old at Hohokus Speedway. And he had his first byline when he was 16. It was called Gas O Lines. He's done an awful lot of things in motorsports across the board. He was a mechanic. He carried water, as they used to say. He drove the trailers. He promoted races with Sam Nunes, who was a legendary promoter way back when. He became a track announcer because that's how he figured you could sell more newspapers. He became a very good track announcer. He became a writer and an editor and eventually a television broadcaster. He and my mother met at a bar named Babe's, and they got married in 1946. And on their honeymoon, they drove a tractor trailer from Iowa back to New Jersey. And she traveled all over with him to the races. She was selling National Speed Sport News in the grandstands. My mother was the one with the scarf and dark glasses on, so nobody would recognize her. My sister and I were 5 and 8 selling papers. When my parents reached their 50th wedding anniversary, somebody said to my mother, to what did you attribute being married 50 years? And she said, he's been gone for 49. He used to call himself a news gatherer as opposed to a reporter, and he was probably better at that than he was as a writer, although he was a fairly good writer and he was a pretty good investigative reporter. He didn't have to print retractions. He sometimes made people angry, but it wasn't because what he wrote wasn't accurate. And he enjoyed listening to people and getting the inside story. He just loved it. He would fill a notebook every time he went to an event. He just reveled in people telling him things. And he knew what questions to ask. That was even more important. He knew exactly what questions to ask. When you look at the people who worked for Chris at the newspaper over the years, an awful lot of them have gone on to much bigger and better things. And a lot of them still cite the things that they learned from him. He would help women get credentials who wanted to write or take pictures when women weren't allowed to get credentials. And he never told those stories, but other people have told those stories about him. And he would help people who wanted to learn how to announce, track announce, TV announce. He was good at that. He was a good editor too. He helped a lot of people with their writing abilities. He's made an awful lot of friends along the way. He's known so many people so well for so long, and he is like an icon in the industry.